Sir, we maybe...
Thank you, sir. We will discuss it over coffee. Thank you.
We end and before we go for a coffee break for 5 minutes, one information I wanted to communicate is actually services and investment agreement ASEAN-India, which was signed in 2015, it hasn't come in effect. So, two countries and both are sitting here, Cambodia and Indonesia. So Cambodia... Yes, we will be looking to the Vermont. Thank you. So we come back by 3:35 and very quickly. Next session is more challenging. Thank you very much. This session is going to just talk about the way ahead, ASEAN-India relation. And the session will be chaired by Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, and very eminent lineup of the panelists. Ambassador To Sin Tan, Vietnam ambassador in India, Mr. Rajat Nag, everybody knows him. Dr. Philips Varmonte, Executive Director CSIS, all the way from Jakarta. Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, who was our former Secretary East in the Ministry of External Affairs, and Professor Sutipan Chirativat, who is the chairman of the Chula Global Network and the Executive Director, ASEAN Studies Center. So these are the 5 speakers. Session will be moderated by Ambassador Bhatia. Sir, over to you, sir. At 15 minutes late, so we try to finish by 5:15. Thank you.
So I can see it, very interesting. Well, thank you, dear friends, for being back from your coffee very quickly. I would like to start by thanking RIS, and particularly my very dear friend Mohan Kumar, for the invitation for me to chair this important session of a very important conference. We do have a stellar panel, as Prabir just mentioned to you, which comprises the serving ambassador, known for his pro-activism and boldness, a Mandarin each from the Asian Development Bank and the Ministry of External Affairs, who contributed much and continue to contribute, and 2 respected thought leaders. First, from one of the best known think tanks of the region, and the other from one of the most reputed universities in Asia. The stellar panel has a challenging theme too, and this relates to an integrated Asia at a time when the world may be fragmenting, and when some feel that Asian unity and the prospects for an Asian century have become questionable. What is the way forward for India-ASEAN partnership in this specific context? That is the issue. I'm sure that we shall go beyond presenting a diagnosis and offer some solid policy advice. This is an apt time to do so because the commemorative summit, the special commemorative summit, is just a few days away. I'm very happy that our panel has a majority of scholars and diplomats from ASEAN, and only a minority belongs to India. This is how a proper dialogue should be. In order to spur some serious deliberations, let me make some brief opening remarks, essentially to delineate the contours of the theme as I understand it today. ASEAN is an association that is in the process of transforming itself into three communities, or a community with three pillars: political, strategic, economic, and socio-cultural. I assume that our analysis will cover all the three dimensions. So very brief remarks on each of these dimensions. On political strategic aspects, the broad geopolitical context, which is dynamic, needs to be taken into consideration. In 1917, I repeat, in 1917, no leader, scholar, or seer could predict that the First World War would end in 2 years, that it would be followed by a 20-year-long armistice, and then by another bigger war that would see the world divided into two large camps and a non-aligned bloc. Similarly, frankly speaking, we do not really know what may happen in 2030 or 2040 and thereafter. But I think we have some idea of what we may expect in the coming decade or so. How do we expect to deal with the region of East Asia, which might witness China rising and the US retreating, as we actually saw in course of 2017, or a China-US condominium with China as the principal partner, or a China-US Cold War, or even worse, an open confrontation and conflict. This is a central question at a stage when the concept of open and inclusive security architecture has apparently proved to be deficient. It is also accompanied by unprecedented stress on the unity and centrality of ASEAN. Now, on the economic dimensions, we just had a very heated and educative debate. We have our own perspective to offer to you. I think we hear a lot more loudly what ASEAN wants from India, and a little less clearly what India wants from ASEAN. Deficit in delivery makes the discussion somewhat imbalanced. However, in our view, deficit applies to the ASEAN side as well as to the Indian side. Objectively speaking, once again, we both have to deliver better. For example, both the need for a speedy completion of the trilateral highway project and negotiating a balanced and mutually beneficial RCEP bear relevance to our discussion today. And finally, as regards the socio-cultural connect, there are two key points to be made in the context of integrated Asia. Number one, our both geographies are committed to establishing inclusive societies. We will get there someday in the future if we work alone. But if we work together, we may get there faster. Hence, mutual dialogue, cooperation, learning from each other, and sharing best practices should be turned into regular habits as far as India and ASEAN are concerned. Two, while our rich and shared heritage provides immense inspiration, and we keep reflecting on it all the time, India and ASEAN need to contemporize their relationship and make it of value to the present and future generations. The challenge is to agree on how to pave the road together. Like you all, I'm very keen and interested to listen to our panelists and later to some of you who might contribute to the Q&A that is bound to follow. So at this stage, thank you very much for your attention, and I would very much now like to request Ambassador Townsend Tan to address you. We are going on, I guess, 15 minutes or so, or rule, and then thereafter we would have a panel discussion, full house discussion. Thank you.
So, thank you, Ambassador Razif Bachir, and the other panelists, Ambassador Anin Natwa, and dear colleagues and ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about a very important topic on the ASEAN-India partnership in the context of Asia integration. But I rather say that it should be in the context of Asia-Pacific integration. We understand that there are two parallel integration processes in Asia-Pacific. The first is the market-driven integration, and second is the institutional integration. These two processes are closely related and complemented to each other. The market-driven integration in Asia, which started from Japan in the 70s last century, then moved to the newly industrialized countries in the 80s, then to China in the 90s, and now is moving down to Southeast Asia and South Asia. And I would rather say that the integration process now also expand to between Pacific region and also Indian Ocean. So we can call it the integration process here is include also Indo-Pacific region. And it is not only driven by market, but also by security aspects. The result of this integration process is that trade among Asian nations now have accounted for about 50% of the total of their total trade. This is higher than the trade among NAFTA countries. And it is, of course, lower than the EU integration. But it is a success of the integration market-driven process in Asia. And the investment among Asian nations also have increased drastically. And it's clearly that this integration process have benefited almost all nations in the region, which have become fastest growing region in the world for quite many years now. The institutional integration in Asia was interestingly started by ASEAN by initiating the dialogue partner system since the end of the 80s.